we also have another big game which will come out at Essen, I guess?
Yes, this will also release a little bit earlier in English. It will release in English for GenCon, so during the summer. But then we plan to have the German edition for Essen. So yes, for Germany it's the Essen game.
Right.
This is a strange game, actually, a bit difficult to explain, but it's a sort of legacy-like game, story-driven. So there is a story. The setting is that players are the councilmen of the king, and they are actually the ones who make the decisions. The game, when you open the box, you will find this is just a random prototype, so don't look at what's printed on top. But you will find the 100 booster packs like this, black with numbers on top, and one starter booster. When you open the box, you take the starter deck, and you will find cards made like this. As the councilman of the king, there will be problems that you need to face to keep the kingdom going. For example, one card could say the neighboring kingdom is trying to invading our frontiers. What do? Do we send the army, or do we try diplomacy? And maybe the card says, we want. You see a soldier here, and he says, we must send the army, and you can say yes or no. The players are linked to several factions, so one of the players will be in control of the army, for example, and he will be probably in favor of a war. But maybe the merchants or the people think this is not a good idea because war is not a good thing for them, and they may be against this. Each player has vote cards with yes or no, and before taking a decision, the players will have to discuss with each other, try to convince the others to vote the way they want. Maybe you are the scholar and you don't really care. So maybe the soldier guy will try to bribe you and give you money so that you vote the way he wants. Anyhow, after a negotiation phase, players will choose one vote and they will put it secretly and then reveal it. The vote determines the decision the council makes, so if it is yes, you turn the card this way and you read this part of the card. The story progresses in a certain way. Some factions may gain influence, some factions may lose influence, and something else may happen. I will explain it in a moment. The thing is that each card is then removed from the deck forever, because that decision was made and the story of the kingdom has changed forever. So in this case, for example, if we make war, then new cards need to go into the deck. So the card says, go into the box, search for bag number 61 and open it. Shuffle it into the deck, and then the next card you draw may be related to the war that the council has just decided to start. If you instead vote for no, you flip the card on the other side. The values will change in a different way, and in this case a different bag will be opened. So a different kind of events will be happening, and the other bag will probably never be opened because that event will never happen.
But you don't destroy the card, so perhaps if you can reset it after the whole game.
Actually, the game is meant to be to experience the game in the most exciting and fulfilling way. It should be treated like a legacy game, so it should not be reset. But we don't force you to destroy the cards. There will be a slot into the plastic tray where you will store the cards. They will be inside, and the tray will be glued so it cannot be removed to take back the cards unless you do decide to reset the game. So you will be able to unglue the plastic, yes, and recover the cards, and you can reset the game at the point, but something may happen, because maybe some secret is hiding if you cheat like that and you try to reset the game. You will know. I don't want to spoil anything. Apart from opening new bags, some of the cards may have you mark different symbols on the board, and you can do this permanently, or you can note it somehow if you don't want to permanently change the game. So when these symbols are, you mark these symbols one by one. When one bar is filled, another bag will be opened, and if this bar is filled, this other alternative event will not happen either. So there are a lot of branching storylines that can be mutually exclusive, and it's the decisions of the player that really determine the course of the history of this kingdom. Also, one thing that I probably should make more clear, the game is not meant to be played in one single session. So you keep reading cards, discussing and taking decisions. The values will, the influence of the various factions will keep changing. There's a few ways in which a single game can end. Some cards have king favor symbol that determine the passing of time. So at one point the king may die. When the king dies, that single game ends, and the player with the highest influence wins that game. This result is recorded somehow, but then out of game a new king will be elected, not really elected, but there will be a new king, a new council will be created, and the next game you will start afresh with all the values reset, but with the same deck you left and with the same open storylines, because whenever you open a bag, the first card will always be an introduction that will tell you the title of this storyline and what's going to happen. This will stay here to remind you. For example, in the case of the war, there will be "We are at war," a card that reminds us that there is a war. So the deck will stay the same, the open storylines will be the same, but you can start a new game and try to keep the story going. Another way the game can end, a single game can end, is when a faction becomes either too strong or too weak. If that happens, the game ends again. The player with the most influence wins, but one of the spaces on that end of that track will be marked, and if the whole track is filled, another bag will open, because that means, if, for example, if the soldiers get very strong for 3 times, this means that our kingdom is becoming very very aggressive. So a bag of cards will go into the deck and reflect this. Maybe the story will become a story of invasion of other countries. In that case, if the army will get very weak instead, maybe the kingdom will be invaded from the outside, and we have to deal with the defense from this invasion. So
so it's a lot of story inside the game, but you don't throw dice or something like that. You just you have to discuss stuff. You have to give some people money or something like that.
Yes, there is negotiations. Yes, it's heavily focused on the story and the decisions of the players and their negotiation.
Okay, and you plan a German one for Essen already?
Yes.
Because it's a lot of text, you have to translate it,
yes.
right?
As I said, the game is planned for release during summer, but since there are 400 cards, everyone with text on front and back, it will take a bit of time to translate. So we only plan the translated versions for later. and the German one is planned for Essen.
So how many times can you play it around if you don't reset it?
If you don't reset it, you can play many. It really depends on your choices, but it can be from 12 games to more than that.
All right.
There is a lot of gameplay.
Sounds very, very interesting for me.
Thank you.